Hey, this is Robert Plank from WPImport.com, and I'm not sure if we know each other, but I would hazard a guess to say that you don't want to do a lot of work and have it not seen, right? You're an internet marketer, you have a business, you have things to do, and when you do the work of creating the content, the tweets, you want people to see what it is that you put out, right? So what's the secret to that? Well, the secret is to move your traffic around and use the low hanging fruit that you have. For example, if you have a Twitter account, you should be linking to every single one of your blog posts, your YouTube videos, your podcast episodes, your other social media posts. And let me show you why that's so important. Now, I'm not saying I get a ton of traffic to my YouTube channel specifically, but just from organic reach alone, just from a couple of videos being posted here over the years, we've got 72,000 views on a single video. We have 45,000 views. We have 29,000 views just from organic reach, just from solving problems, having the keywords, having our stuff out there. I have a podcast which is at 275,000 listens from it being out there. I have a Twitter account that promotes the podcast, that promotes the YouTube videos, that in the past month has had 300,000 impressions. So what do we do when we say, I'm where I am at right now, and I want to get to where I want to be? How do I get there? Well, what you do is you look at people who are ahead of you, who are where you want to be. You look at people, for example, who have huge Twitter followings, and maybe someone who's not an influencer or someone who's not a politician, someone who's just a business owner, a marketer like you and me. We can look at this guy, Grant Cardone, who has 148,000 tweets, and we look at how often he tweets about once per hour, sometimes twice per hour. We can look at this other guy, John Lee Dumas, with 78,000 tweets, and he posts 8 hours ago, 10 hours ago, 11 hours ago. So what you'll find is that the most famous and popular and high traffic Twitter accounts, again, that aren't politicians, that aren't influencers, they post very, very regularly. They post about once an hour. And you should too, because the average life of a tweet is about 45 minutes. And if you're posting manually, if you're posting the old-fashioned way, then you're probably wasting a lot of time. And I would say that it's okay to go to your Twitter account and post something new, but why not have your Twitter account working for you overnight so you can get the impressions that you want, you can get the followers that you want. And I look at my Twitter account right now, and I post super often. Maybe I should dial it back a little bit, but we posted an hour ago, 2 hours ago. So me personally, I post about 10 to 15 minutes right now, and I'll post links to my blog, my podcast, to videos, to products, to opt-in pages, things like that. And I'll add someone if I interviewed them. I'll add the hashtags if those are relevant to things like hashtag outsourcing. That way we can pick up on all this traffic. And how do you do it? Well, the way that we do it is using this tool called eClincher, which I'll show you in a moment. But I want to show you first this tool. This is a $7 plugin of ours called WP Import that allows you to upload a zip file and have a lot of the content, have 10 posts, 20 posts, 100 posts in a package, and you put it on your site, and boom, now all the posts are on there. And that's a really useful tool. But WP Import also allows you to go the other way to dump posts out. And let me show you. We can go over to the list of posts on our WordPress blog, and we can say, I want to export, maybe I'll export everything in the podcasting category. Maybe I'll export everything that's written by me. Or maybe I'll export everything. And what we can do is we can just go to this, we can like check a few boxes here and say we wanted to just export these 3 posts. We could export into what's called a CSV file, which is just basically a list. And we can open up this CSV file, and there's this list here where they give us, and I'll delete this content column to make it easier. So it dumps all the whole blog post, all that stuff, but it basically gives us a list here, and we can see here's the title of this blog post, here's the link to it, and then here's the date that it was published. And so that's good to see a handful of posts, but I'm going to get really crazy here and choose export CSV entire blog. And this might take us a second, but this will give us a dump of every single post that there is on our WordPress blog, even if there's hundreds or thousands. We'll open this up again. I'll blow away the content column because I don't need that right now. I just need the titles and the links to my site. And then if we resize a little bit here. So I'll move that over. I'll pop out the link. And then we can see that there are these posts here that are not yet live, but we have this huge list. Now think about how this is on your own site. Do you have tons and tons of posts that maybe they're a few months old, maybe they're slightly out of date, but they're still useful for people, and you need to plug in each and every single one of these posts onto your social media, onto your Twitter feed. And you know what you could do is you could even, because we're working in a spreadsheet here, we could dial back the column and we could, whoops, there's the date column too. And we can just make a column here, if I delete that, that could say maybe something like posted to Twitter, ? And then we can post this link and this title to our Twitter account. And then once we've done that, add an X mark. So that way you can just go through and maybe share this on Google Drive if you're fancy. Maybe have a virtual assistant do this for you if you're super fancy. And that's great. But how do you be consistent with that? Isn't this going to be a thing where you have to jump in every hour and switch gears? And maybe the alternative is to dump in 30 tweets at once, but then who wants that? Well, the answer is to use a scheduling service, to use a service such as eClincher. And we like eClincher better than the others because it allows you to fill up a queue and then schedule your queue onto your social media and then either add to it manually or recycle again and again. And here's what I mean, is when you look at a guy like, we showed Grant Cardone in a second, Grant Cardone and his team, in the morning, they write something like 36 tweets. They write. He has a social media person in the morning write 36 tweets, and they'll add links, they'll add messages, they'll add inspirational quotes, they'll link to a YouTube channel, they'll add videos, they'll add graphics, and then they'll just take all of those and then schedule them out throughout the day. And wouldn't it make a lot of sense as well, for bring up the John Lee Dumas Twitter account here, wouldn't it make sense that maybe sometimes he'll post something that's recent? So maybe he'll post about an income report, but even this is a couple of months old. But maybe he has things that are evergreen, that are posting again and again. And then if he has something new, then he can post it within the mix, right? So if he posts nothing, then maybe it'll post the power of masterminds. Maybe it'll post 3 hours to your big idea. And then when he wants to post something that's brand new, he can just go to his regular Twitter account and even add to that. And here's what you do is you get an account on eClincher, and I think maybe this is $30 a month or so. It's not very expensive at all. And then you go to this left side and you click on add and manage accounts, and you go through the process of linking up your Twitter account. They'll pop something up, you'll go and you log back in, and then you'll be able to see on this sidebar here that I can post directly to my Robert Plank account onto Twitter. And then what we can do is this works in what are called queues, and we can say add new queue, and then it pops this down below, and we can call this queue content. And technically you can use eClincher for Facebook and Instagram, but I only use it for Twitter. And I'll make this bright red. So now we have what's called a queue. We can switch over to this content queue, and right now it's off, so we'll make sure to switch it on so that it's active and that it processes through that queue. But then we can click on these settings for the queue, and what we can do is, by default, you can have this be a one-time queue. So if you have new things to say, you can just pile it in. and then it will go through and maybe it'll post one thing every 3 hours, one thing per day, but you can load it up with this list of all of these links that you have. And then what we can do by default is then once the queue is completely empty, it'll shoot you an email and say, hey, that needs refilling. So what if you just started slow, started small, and you said, this is just going to post once per day on my Twitter account. And I'm guessing that maybe once per day on your Twitter account is more than you're auto posting to it now. And let's say that you auto posted it once per day with an old link and then once per day with something new. That would be a pretty good start to a consistent social media presence. And so a one-time queue is good, but as we said, what we like the best about eClincher is you can choose this recycle queue. And what that means is, let's say your blog has 100 posts on it. You can get all those 100 links loaded up, 100 tweets, and then shuffle it, randomize it, and then maybe it took 100 days to post all of those, and then on day 101, it would start over from the beginning of the queue. And if throughout those 100 days you logged in and maybe clicked the shuffle button again or added in some new links, you would have a pretty unique and just interesting and mixed up Twitter account. And if someone went and loaded your profile, they wouldn't see very much repeat content. And so what you can do here is you can say, here's the link, this branded content coach Marissa Cali link. And eClincher does have a way where you can just upload this whole CSV file, this whole list, but it's more interesting if you can add your own hashtags, add your own graphics. So we'll make sure to go to this content queue that we just created. It's going to be a recycled queue, and it's warning us that we haven't specified which times in the day to post, and we'll get to that once we load this up with a couple of posts. So far, just to keep it simple, eClincher, add your account, create a queue, make it a recycled queue, and then within a queue, you add posts, right? So does that make sense? You can have a queue that contains 10 tweets, 10 posts. So we're in our content queue, add a new post, and then it asks us to write our message, and we can just right click and paste in that link, and it'll go out, it'll shorten the link, it should grab some images, it will populate with the text, and then we can add our own hashtags. We can say hashtag social media, hashtag branded content, hashtag LinkedIn, hashtag podcast, hashtag interview, and then this person, Marissa Cali, I mean, if she's a gal talking about social media, she'd better have a social presence. And then, so I think this is her, all the social. Yes, that's her. And then we'll just copy her username. We'll go to this and we'll say with content coach at Marissa Cali. So don't overdo it with the adding, but a nice bonus to having someone that you've interviewed on a podcast that you're promoting is to add the person each and every time. So now we have this tweet with a link, with a shortened link, with a picture. And if you have something that you're posting to and you don't have a picture for it, then you can click on this GIF icon, and then you can just you can find something that's eye-catching, and then click on this pay-per-click, pick on the attach to post, and then instead of the graphic that is there by default of her in the orange sweater, it's going to show that weird thing with the cat with the rings. And so you can have a lot of fun and do things that stand out, that are unique with the tweets that you put on here. So I hope that makes sense why I don't necessarily just dump a huge list of links into eClincher for my tweets. Sometimes I want to go and find some fun and some interesting graphics, some fun animated GIFs. If it loads. Looks like that's not loading there, so let me try one. Maybe it's gonna take a second to load that tweet. There we go. So we just had to choose one that worked properly, and then so now we have someone doing this fun stuff, and then we can just save that post or that tweet to our queue, and now we have that. And then I'll add maybe one or two more, that way you can get the idea. So we'll say new post, and then we'll say paste, and then this is Natasha Davis. Not sure if she has a Twitter. That's definitely not her. So I'm not sure if she has a Twitter. I'll check the post we had. All right, so I don't think she has one. That's okay. So then we'll say efficiency software hashtag podcast. And then we'll leave her picture alone. We'll be nice. And then I'll show you one more just to make sure we get it. So then we'll copy this other one. Where's the copy? I guess if we can't find a copy, we'll do a Control-C. Then make another new post. And then paste. And again, like I said, this doesn't have to be just for your blog. This could be for your YouTube posts, your podcast guest appearances. And then we'll see if Dr. Joe Schaefer has a Twitter account. We have Coach Schaefer. Dr. Web Search from Motility. So then we'll copy his @ and then we'll say hashtag digital marketing podcast interview, and then save. And 3 posts in a queue is not a lot. Ideally, we want to have dozens, we want to have hundreds, but this gets us started. This shows you how this works. And then the next thing we've done, so first we've grabbed these posts, we've loaded them into a queue. Now we need to tell eClincher when this queue will play out. And then so what we say is, well, on Sunday, let's say we want every 30 minutes, let's say every 1 hour, we will post something from this content queue, and then we'll add. And then you see how it sort of randomized things. So we say that every Sunday at 5:56, it's going to take this episode 640 Marissa Cali episode. It'll post it. And then now the next thing in the queue is this next one down. And then at 7 a.m., it'll post Natasha Davis. And then at 7:47, it'll post Joe Schaefer. And then because we said this is a recycle queue, it'll start up at the top again. And so this is the kind of thing where after you get this set up, you just say copy Sunday to all times, and then it'll set that as the schedule for the whole week. And then we can see here that the way I have it mixed up is I have multiple queues. So I have a queue for my YouTube videos, I have a queue for my podcast episodes, I have a queue for blog posts, for interesting links. And so some things in some queues post at different times or post more often than others to further uniquify my Twitter presence. And the result, once you have that set up, is a consistent marketing machine that's always linking people to your podcast interviews. And if someone showed up on your podcast, it will add them. And if we can see that this person has 93,000 followers, we can see. So this has 20 impressions in the past 41 minutes. So about 1 person per minute looked at this tweet. And we can go back and see this Paul Potrat's tweet. We can see there's 26 impressions, which again is not a lot, but that adds up when it's a few times per hour, when that's again and again. And so the end result here is that there are people that I've made a very good connection with via podcast interviewing. I made them look smart. I asked them questions. We got some content out of that. And then they see that years and years later, I mean, we might not even remember each other. We might pass each other on the street and not know who we are, but maybe a podcast interview from 4 years ago is still playing out because I used eClincher, because I dumped out a list of my blog posts, because I created a recycle queue, and I'll just turn this off for now because I don't want to just recycle those 3 posts, but we created a recycle queue. We loaded up all of these tweets in there, and then we ended up filling up those tweets in a calendar. And I apologize for blocking the view a second ago. So then we can just fill up a schedule and say every 1.5 hours, I want to post something from my content queue, and then that way we end up having a whole schedule of content that promotes the whatever links that we want. And we've added in some cool animated GIFs, we've added people involved, we've added hashtags. So eClincher is the way for you to have those recycled tweets. And again, the secret to getting all that content imported into your blog in the first place is using our WP import plugin. And once your blog or your podcast is completely filled up, set up, you can also use WP import to dump out a CSV list of the various blog post links on your site that you then want to promote on social media on eClincher. So I'm Robert Plank. Hope that helped. Use WP Import. It's a great tool. Thanks and bye now.